As most people into Harleys will know, this year Harley Davidson have taken the decision to sunset the Dyna range and the Softail range and bring out a whole new platform. Now that new platform is still called the Softails, even though the bike's quite different, just to keep that kind of heritage and marketing going. But essentially it's got a new frame, new wheels, new brakes, new suspension from Showa, which is essentially Honda, and the big news really is the suspension upgrades, really moving from the horizontal shocks, twin shocks beneath the frame, to a monoshock, which is kind of in line with the rear swing arm pivot all the way up to the headstock. So it's in the correct place to be, basically. And they've made the bikes much lighter in the main, and they've brought them more up to date in terms of their looks and general spec. So this is just my first initial impressions of two of the models, and I'd like to begin with the Fat Bob, and then we'll move on to the Fat Boy. So the Fat Bob is a real looker. I think it's the second variant that they did of this model when it moved kind of from the twin cam models to the twin cam 88 models up to the 103. They changed the back end of the bike, made it kind of hot rod looking, but for me it didn't really quite work. I didn't like the twin brake lights with the flat back end. Gone back to a proper Bob back end now, looks much better. I like the tri kind of finish on the exhaust, moving from the kind of the very trendy kind of coppery look to the black to the kind of brush finish. In terms of the paint scheme, this particular paint scheme is only available in the 114 engine, because this bike is available in the Milwaukee 8 107 or the 114. I think the 114 is well worth the upgrade. I think it's about $1,700, but when you consider, I think that the base model doesn't come with ABS, and ABS is about $700. Effectively, you're getting a 107 to 114 upgrade for $1,000, and that's got to be good financial sense. It's probably worth another 10 horses and another £10 per feet in terms of torque. Of course, one thing they're making a big deal about is the rear preload adjuster, which is a remote adjuster now that you can turn by hand. I think my Suzuki GSX 550 had one back in 1986, but whatever, it's still a lot better than crawling underneath the bike and messing about with the Softail shock. And it's kind of handy to be able to dial that up if you put somebody on the back, or you put luggage on it, or you just want the bike to steer a little bit quicker by raising the rear end a little bit. So that's one good thing. I am a little bit disappointed that overall, though, with most bikes now having electronic suspension, that they haven't at least given full preload and rebound and compression adjustment at both ends for this particular bike, which is the sportiest Harley probably made to date, really. So just moving on to the front end a little bit, the brakes are made by Brembo, and they're dual stoppers up front, so they're nice and strong. And of course it's got inverted forks now, which is really nice in terms of handling and stability under braking. The headlights changed, and that will be an area of great discussion on web forums. I'm sure lots of people really love the kind of conjoined twin headlights before. I like those. I thought they looked good, but I have to say these kind of letterbox LEDs look far better in the flesh than they do in the photos, and the gloss black surround is a really nice touch. Beneath that you can clamp clamps to fit a quick detached screen if you want to start touring on it, or you ride in inclement weather. I like the asymmetric design on the tank. It's a very nice touch. But one thing I did notice, which is I've not heard in any of the reports, but underneath that black clock housing at the front, there's a really big gap between that and the tank. Big enough to put 3 fingers up inside that, and I do worry about condensation getting up there and maybe into the clock mechanism, and just overall that's just not a nice touch. It's a poor design fault. The Fat Boy doesn't have it, it's just the Fat Bob, but given that's pretty much the only thing on the bike I don't like, I could probably live with it, and most people probably wouldn't even notice it. I like the view from the saddle. These swept back bars which have an angle indicator on them, that so you can just adjust those by loosening the top clamps there and just angle it to the desired height that you want the bars, or at least the desired angle. And I really like they don't feel too much of a stretch, and they're wide enough to be very relaxing and comfortable. In terms of the pillion, it's got pillion pegs and a small seat. You're not going to take them very far, but then again, this is no ultra limited, so you already know that anyway. The engine casing is pretty basic, but the 114 shouts performance, which is nice. I like the black gloss finish on the brake pedal there, and the Harley Davidson logo on the wheels is a really nice touch as well. It really kind of stands out, as does the side mounted plate. It's a much nicer position to be in than at the back of the bike. I noticed that the side stand is very different now. It still locks in position, but it's a much more upright position, and it doesn't the bike doesn't go over as far, but it still kind of locks at 90 degrees to the bike. Most people not used to Harleys will find that still a little bit disconcerting when they like to push the lever a little bit further forward, and they're not used to their side stand locking into position when under pressure. But it's an improvement and stuff. I like the slash cut of the exhaust, but I'm sure lots of people will want to put grenades on this as soon as possible, and maybe a fuel pack, etc. The seat is coming for good praise in the reviews. I like the rippled effect, and that's actually a textured seat. It's quite grippy, and it feels really nice on the base of your spine. And it's actually, I believe, has a gel insert as standard. And although it's a sporty bike and not really made for touring, I think if it fits you and you feel good on it, you can certainly do reasonable miles with the standard seat on that. And again, things like the blacked out mirrors and stuff with teardrops, they're much nicer to see than the old bikes often had ancillaries like that you just wanted to junk straight away, and that's not really what you want to hear when you've just spent 20 grand on a new bike, really. But overall, I like the silhouette. I think they've done a good job. The detail touches are nice. The pegs feel better. The actual brake lever and brake pedals feel at the right height now, not sort of 6 inches above the pedals like previous models. And I think overall they've done a pretty good job of the Fat Bob, and I think it comes with a stage 1 filter as standard, I think, and overall, good job. I think it's the best, probably the best of the new Softail range. So moving on to the Fat Boy, well, it's such a pretty bike. I don't think they've done it better since the original bike. The original bike that was in the kind of metallic silver with the yellow inserts in the head and the solid wheels was such an iconic model. And then, of course, Arnie in Terminator 2 made it even more iconic. And I don't think they've ever made the bike prettier until now. I think it's such a good makeover for this model. The headlight is beautiful, and that headlight nacelle is just lovely. And of course the wheels are kind of pretty much what every previous Fat Boy owner probably wished he'd had on his bike or her bike. And I love the machine look of them, and they're kind of polished rather than chrome, but they're so well polished they do kind of look like they're chrome. And they're fat, of course. This is a fat bike, and that's got a 240 section rear now, I believe, and a 1 section front. It's like a real steamroller, and that's going to slow down the geometry, of course. And this is a long bike. This bike's a couple of inches longer than the BMW K1600B, for instance. But I don't know. The people I know that have ridden it so far say it's just not a problem, and I trust their judgment. So if you're worried about that, obviously get a demo ride. But you can see how fat this rear tyre is. It is huge. It's a monster, as big as the one I had on my Ducati Diavel Carbon Red, for instance. And one thing Harley always does well, of course, is paint, and they're probably the best in the business in terms of the number of layers and the thickness and the quality of their paint. And I just love on this particular model, with the sparkly paint finish is excellent. And again, just another look at this beautiful headlight. I don't think it's as effective as the Fat Bobs, but boy, is it pretty. And with those new wheels up front, it's gonna win hearts for sure. So really, that concludes my initial impressions of probably the two most interesting new Softails. Get down to your dealer and get a demo ride on them if you can. And I'd say that if you want a bike that really looks special and beautiful, then the pretty new Fat Boy is for you. If you want a Harley, or you always wanted a Harley that had just that little bit more go, handled just that little bit better, and looked just that little bit meaner, then I don't think the Fat Bob is going to disappoint you in any shape or form. So good job, Harley, and I think the new Milwaukee 8s will be a lot more reliable than the twin cams, and if this is the sort of bike that you're interested in, then buy with confidence. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and most of all, ride often, ride carefully, ride on.